Hey, it's Don here from the board. Thank you for coming along and checking out another one of our videos. So, yesterday I did a video showing off the switch doctors that Binge kindly sent us from Hungerwork Studios for the Sydney 2017 meetup. Now, as part of that video, I did a bit of a stem fitment test, as I normally do with different artisans, and we found that 2 out of the 4 had slightly loose stems. They weren't so loose that upon the flick test they were popping straight off, but over prolonged flicks they were sliding up the stems and one of them did eventually pop off. I had a conversation with Binge through sort of message chasing here on Slack, and he actually wrote back to me to say that there are some things that they didn't get to do on these caps because they were made especially for the meetup and they were kind of trying to get them out in time for the meetup. So I really appreciate the fact that they were made custom for the meetup, and obviously everybody who's won 1 or 2, as the case may be, are not going to be disappointed at all. However, for the purposes of transparency, I really appreciate the fact that Binge has said that yes, they actually know that sometimes when they make their caps, they actually do have a slightly loose stem. Now, I'm actually going to read you some parts of what Binge said to me because it puts it into context, and I think this is really fantastic that Hungerwork Studios has gone to this step to ensure their products are actually as good as possible. So what Binge actually says is that at one point we went for security in the concept. When working towards a tight fit 100% of the time, we started to crack stems. Now, we're seeing this, I'm going to end that quote section there because this is my commentary. We're seeing that with other makers, this does actually happen. So for example, there was a lot of issues with when Jelly Key were making certain keycaps that a lot of people were actually claiming that they were getting cracked stems. So I'll continue with what Binge said to me in the message, which was, so we try to get it just right or a little bit loose. If it's loose, we can thicken it up to get it just right by hand with a durable paint-on material. Unfortunately, we did not get to do that with the switch doctors sent to you. So this is really great because this is going to give confidence to some other people that when they're casting, if they get stems that are slightly loose, even the pros have this happen as well. And what that is saying to me is you shouldn't stress too much about it as long as it's still going to fit on the stem. It's still going to be a good fit, which these switch doctors were. Now, I can't show you that because I actually put them into the mail and they went off today to the people who won them from the meetup. I don't know what this durable material is, but it sounds really interesting. However, if you don't have access to durable material, that's not really a big deal because you can always use your favorite cling wrap and just put a little bit over the stem and push it down and it should hold it nice and snug. So thank you once again, of course, to Binge to actually getting these done and made custom, especially for the meetup. To be honest, I don't think you needed to rush them, only because, hey, I don't think anybody would have minded at all getting that IOU as we already did. Now, the second half of this video is I wanted to just show off what I've been playing around with the last 2 days, and that's actually creating a case for the amtra5 PCB that was given as part of the raffle for the Sydney meetup. Now, I've shown this before because I did the live stream of the actual building of this little guy. So there is the actual device itself. Of course, I can just show it on the desk there with the Sydney 2017 meetup logo on it, if the camera will focus. There you go. I've just mounted a little gator on green, and I've got a clear DSA keycap from my grab bag. And of course, underneath there is the Pro Micro with a QR code on how to get some programming flashing the actual cap, and there's Amtra's little website and his logo there as well. Now, I felt, I didn't really want to trim the header pins because it actually made it for a nice sort of little foot that the actual cap was sitting on originally, but then I thought, you know what, I wanted to give it a little bit more protection. I don't like clipping feet off the headers only because whenever I clip them, I never get them even and it doesn't look really good. So I started messing around in a bit of sort of 3D software, and this was sort of the first version I made, but the actual outside of it broke off because it was too thin. It was too small. And it wasn't a great fit because when I tried to put it in, you'll see it actually overlaps the edges. And that's really an artifact of shrinkage on when ABS is printed that my machine has. And then there's a sort of top piece that goes on top. So I went back to the drawing board, I messed around with the dimensions a little bit more, and then I came up with V2, which is this one here. It's a much more durable wall. The PCB actually fits in it all the way quite neatly. I've actually got the port there, so you can actually plug in. And then there's also a reset port there as well, which allows you to access the ground and reset pins so you can actually short it if you want to reprogram it. I made it a bit larger because I wasn't sure how bad the shrinkage rate is, and there's a bit of wobble in that, so I'm not too fussed about it. But what I am doing with it is I've actually got just a bit of folded paper, nothing terribly high tech. Now I do have some tape here because I didn't want the nice silkscreen print bits on the PCB to be rubbing against the plastic and wearing off over time if it does actually have a bit of wiggle. So I've just put tape to protect that, and also on the back to try and bulk it a little bit, where I'm going to put this bit of paper and just going to slide that down and into the front it should go. So it's in. Now it's nice and snug, and you can see doesn't fall out or anything like that at all. Of course, just turn the switch a little bit so it rotates. Now, I've got my USB cable here. Gonna just socket that in. And I don't know if you can see it very well, but there we go. We've got light, we've got power, and I can sort of just move it a little bit with the cable, but not a problem. And then the cap. The original version was just flush on the bottom, but this one I've actually done a little bit of a cutout as well, so it clears the actual top header pins and it will sit nice and flush. Once again, I've just taped it just to protect the PCB from any scratching, and it's a friction fit. So if it works, which I did test it earlier, I should be able to pop that in. Oh. I think I know what's happened. It's because I put this paper in the back. That's what's happened. So let's I'll pop that out for the time being, and I'll put that in. Means the actual thing's slightly recessed. There'll still be a little bit of wobble, but might have to go back to the drawing board for this. Come on, you can do it. There we go. What on earth is going on? I got this to fit beautifully earlier. There we go. Oh, it's lopsided. Fumbling this while I'm recording is not the best of ideas, is it? Come on, we can get this right. Sure we can. Sure we can. Seat that in to the back, and there we go. Snap fit. It's actually not too bad. I think having the extra tape, because when I did it earlier I didn't have the tape in it, and I'm just gonna push it around so it squares up a little bit better. Is that gonna be squared up? Alright, there you go. So you can still see the actual logo, which was part of the design. So you know where it came from. The rest of the PCB is covered. Still have access to the actual plug and the port. And then there is the hole to get into the reset. So, nifty little macro pad case that I sort of just knocked up over yesterday and today. Printed one yesterday to test it out. Printed one today when I got home from work. And there it is. Plugged in. You can see there's the light, so it should be working just fine. And of course, if I open up Notepad, switch over to the monitor, and then you can see over here I got the button and I press the button. well, let me select the notepad first. There we go. And I press it. Oh, front-facing camera is blocking it. So let's get rid of that. Back to the notepad, and you'll see that every time I press it, it's generating the little macro that I put in earlier. So there you go. So the connection works perfectly fine, and the case doesn't seem to hinder it at all. Now, if you're interested in making your own, of course, you can just design it from scratch if you like. Otherwise, I will have a link below the video where you can get the STL file from Thingiverse where I've uploaded it. So there you go. Now that has a nifty little housing for it. And it doesn't sound too bad either. So, whoop. All right, that pretty much wraps up today's video. Sorry if it went on a little bit longer than I intended. I like to talk as things go on. Once again, thank you to Binge. Thank you, Hungerworks Studios. Fantastic stickers, fantastic caps. If you get a loose fit, don't stress too much. And bit of cling wrap. Or if you can get your hands on some durable paint-on material, whatever that mystery paint-on material is, that will do the trick for you. All right. Thank you very much for coming along, checking out the video. Please hit like, please hit share, please hit subscribe if you haven't already. 600 subscriber giveaway still happening until the 15th of July. And then we'll probably do a live stream as part of the podcast recording to draw that as well. All right. So, as always, until next time, happy clacking.